board meeting of June 23rd, 2020. And if anyone in the audience has some comments, please go to our website and fill in the form, and your question or your comment will be read during the meeting at the appropriate time. Can we have the roll call, please?
Gil Swart.
Here.
Christina Brook.
Here.
Matthew Campos. Matthew Campos.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay. Lori Klimowitz.
Here.
And Johnny Tolbert.
Here.
Okay, will you join me in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
And to the
to the republic
stands
for which it one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look at the agenda?
Okay.
Yep.
I guess I need to pull it up, make sure I'm looking at the right one.
It's just those two items. The budget workshop is first, and then the second is a closed session meeting to finish out the MOU where we left it off last time.
Okay. I don't need to see it in front of me, I guess.
Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
So moved.
Oh, Johnny can have it. I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Did everybody say aye?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So here we go on the budget. I think all of you have your papers, and are there any questions or
There are, Madam President,
yes?
there are 2 or 3 questions from the audience
Okay.
that we may want to clear up at this point, because it's 2 of them are proposing that I shouldn't be involved in the budget meeting at all.
Why is that?
Well, if you want me to read the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please do.
Yes.
We need to get it.
Okay, so both of the questions are from a person named Allison Nye, N-I, if that's how you pronounce the last name. Okay, so the first one says, why is Christina Brook voting on a budget proposal if she owns K&M Enterprises, a grant company regularly employed by the CSD? She is in violation of financial conflict of interest and should recuse herself from any future voting for budgets, grants, etc. And then the public comment is Christina Brook should step down. And another public question about the same thing is, why do we have someone who is in conflict of interest vote on this year's budget proposal? And then again from Allison, furthermore on this same question, we demand that Vice President Christina Brook resign due to her disqualifying acts of financial interest. According to the Fair Political Practices Commission, being an employee or owner of a business, her grant writing company, K&M Enterprises, and getting financial reimbursement from a government entity, CSD, while being a board member is a disqualifying conflict of interest. She seemed to step down in a previous meeting, but she has to resign, like all capital, HAS, has to resign and recuse herself from the upcoming budget proposal. So those are 2 concerns. And I'm actually very, very happy to be given the opportunity, if you'll give me the opportunity, to clear up this erroneous information.
Yeah, it is wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
This erroneous information continues to be stated like facts on social media platforms, and that defames me and my company and slanders me and my company. And I actually think the district is very fortunate that I have 28 years of experience as a grant writer and an owner of a company. And I know that Bonnie is here tonight, and she will fully disclose that I have never, ever, ever taken not one penny of reimbursement from this Morongo Valley CSD, and I fully donated my time on all grants. And even if they're getting mixed up out there with the fact that I did work for the Yermo Fire Department, my company did, and we shared a grant application, a collaborative grant application on OTS at the direction of the state. They said that no small district on its own would get funded. So we did a collaborative partnership with Yermo. When I went back on my invoices, as it turns out, I had written 2 grants for Yermo Fire Department, which is a completely different CSD, over 100 miles away from us. And on the OTS and the firehouse subs, as it turns out, my company, we never add up the hours till the very end, like, because we want to do the best job we can do, but we always have a not to exceed bid. And as it turns out, between the firehouse subs and the OTS grant, my company actually went in the hole $519 that I donated. And even if you look at what I individually made on those grants, which was $42 to edit one and $82 to edit the other one, I still ended up with $389.40 in the red, in the hole. And that's on a completely different CSD. So I ended up donating my time because all the direct money went to pay the consulting writers who did the work. So myself, even on Yermo, I ended up $389.40 donated. I have donated my time for the past 8 years that I've been on the board. I edited the Spartan fire truck grant on January 2016 at 7:08 p.m. I have my edits in my computer that I helped our wonderful firemen who helped write that grant, that I did edit it, and it did ended up getting us $428,000. I also wrote a park fire fuel reduction grant in September 2016 with former board member Darren Sandin, and he and I worked really hard as volunteers. He even got tractor quotes for free, and he did a great job. Then I also helped edit the playground grant for free that Gail worked on with some volunteers from the community. I also started a GoFundMe campaign for the district. I also funded a $1 a day campaign. I donated the mugs, the t-shirts, the singing dogs. I've been nothing but a donor to this fire department. I donated to the website. I donated to the firefighters when they got their perk card. I've brought in Panda Express as a thank you because they did multiple runs on my friend who eventually passed away. I've been nothing but a good community person, very generous, and it really isn't fair to be dragging my name or my company's name through the mud like this. And so I would like, first of all, I would like if Chief Brakebill could please verify with the work that I did between Yermo and us, even on that collaborative grant that we got about $84,000 that we about split. 49,000 came to Morongo and about 30 something went to Yermo. I would like Chief Brakebill if he would kindly verify that I did donate $389.40.
Yes, I will verify that. Plus, you donated a lot more hours than that for Yermo as well.
Thank you very much. And if Bonnie, Taxes by Bonnie is there, could you please verify that I have never received one penny from this Morongo Valley CSD, and also that I'm not even a vendor for the Morongo Valley CSD. Could you please verify that?
That would be correct. We have never written a check to K&M or to yourself, and you are not listed as a vendor anywhere in the books.
Okay, so thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to clear up that erroneous information, and I would really appreciate it if it would stop.
Thank you, Christina. I think you've said everything that could be said about it, and it should be over with now. So, where do you want to start on this, folks? I mean, the final
Yeah,
page
Bonnie.
has, the final page has 4 different
There's no one raising.
scenarios. And there's only one scenario where we aren't in the hole. So I want to know where you all want to go with this.
Gail, are you looking at the one that shows the Excel sheet with 4 on it?
Uh-huh.
Yes, that's the
Okay.
one that we sent out to you. We're working the one
Yeah.
with 4 different budgets. 3 of them we looked
Right.
at before, and the 4th one was added by the suggestion of the board.
Right.
No, that was not a suggestion of the board. We need to straighten that out real quick. The 4th one you said you had, but you didn't give to the board.
We have to do this.
We
Okay,
need to get that straight.
okay, and there is another question from the community that could now go into what we're talking about. And
Okay.
also, I did find out legal information from the general counsel for the California Special District Administration that would lead me to believe that we can go ahead and throw out 2 of the budgets that we had concerns about whether we could operate with a separate general manager from a fire chief. So I have some information to that where we could then just possibly, if you listen to the input and agree, we could possibly just look at the 2 budgets where the fire chief and general manager are combined into one position called director of operations. So I don't know if you would like.
Understand, I would never agree to that.
Okay, well,
I would never agree to that. Understand, please.
Okay, I would
Go
like to
ahead.
just give you the information if you would like it.
Give us the information
love to
and
hear
then we'll go forward.
And then I'll
Love to hear it.
also read Allison Nye's other question that has to do with the budget as well. And then that'll clear up the 3 questions that we had. The last public statement is the one from Don Kraus that probably we want to wait for the general meeting because it doesn't have anything to do with the budget. Okay, so so we had, as the ad hoc committee for the Director of Operations Committee, Gail and I serve on that. We heard your concerns. We heard Matthew's concern and Johnny's concern very clearly that they were worried that could we by all law have a general manager and a fire chief combined into one job description called a director of operations. And so I started doing some research, and the California Special District Formation Guide, under the heading of hiring staff, states that you will need to hire a highly qualified, as needed, general manager, sometimes referred to as chief executive officer, executive director, administrator, or other titles. So then I said, wow, looks like some people have used other titles rather than purely general manager. So my next step was I contacted the California State District Association, and they gave me 2 scenarios that I could do. I could post one to their helpline, which is goes to staff, or I could post it to a community forum. When they saw my question, because they vet it before they post it, they said that this is a legal question, and so it needed to be referred to the general counsel, which is the law firm for the California State DA or organization, California State Special District Administration. And we got a response yesterday, Monday, from a David McMurtry Law in Folsom, California, and here is what he said. Ms. Brooke, I serve as the general counsel for CSDA. General counsel means he's the lawyer. And your inquiry has been forwarded to me for response. Your job description and employment agreement clearly describe the duties of the Director of Operations as equivalent to those of a general manager of the district. As you point out, the CSD law requires that your district have a general manager to perform such duties. But the CSD law does not contain any requirements as to what the job title is assigned to such managerial duties. I think the job title of Director of Operations, together with the job description, meets the requirements of the CSD law. I also believe it is good policy for your district to consolidate the fire chief and general manager job positions into a single position of Director of Operations in light of your limited revenues and the fact that about 90% of your district's activities deal with fire prevention and suppression. Please let me know if you have any additional questions. David McMurchie Law.
And this was,
I have
we
a
were
question.
allowed just a minute, Johnny. We were allowed 1 hour of the attorney's consultation for free. So we haven't, there's been no charge to the district for that.
Correct.
Okay, Johnny.
That's standard CSDA. I have a question. What job description did you give him? We don't have one.
The draft that we had all been working from March 25th.
You didn't
that
have it.
was
You had
the
no
last
business giving it
draft.
to anybody until we approved it.
We have a draft on March 25th, 2020, and part of our Director of Operations ad hoc committee was to get that job description fully in compliance and legal, and also the employment agreement as well. And so I sent him the March 25th draft of it that you guys all had. We can also resend it to everybody, but that was the last draft that we all worked on. Pardon me?
Okay, you had
Go ahead,
no
John.
business sending him the draft or a draft contract. There is no job description, there is no contract until we read it, we agree upon it. Your
Of course,
draft
and
is
that's-
nothing. You had
That's exactly
no business
right.
sending that to him.
That's
You had no
exactly
business
right.
sending that to him to begin with.
That's exactly right, Johnny. So we do have drafts, and we've been in this plight of figuring out whether we can have a combined general manager fire chief called Director of Operations. And now what we have found out is, yes, we can. It meets the requirements of the law. It does not matter what the title is. And so we could take our March 25th, 2020 job description and our agreement, and we could look at that and we could pass it now, or we could add to it or subtract to it. But in general, what it said was the, let me read it to you, what I told the attorney
In general,
too.
he made a legal,
The
in
Director
general, he
of
made a legal
Operations,
opinion on a non-legal document.
the Director of
It's no good.
Operations position, that's what we're trying to get to figure out, Johnny. So,
My point is real simple. No,
Mhm,
Christina,
so-
no, Christina, it's real simple. You asked for a legal opinion on a non-legal document. It is no good. The
If
opinion is
Johnny-
no good.
if we
Cannot get a
adopt
legal
this,
opinion
Johnny,
on a
stop.
non-legal
Everybody
document.
stop. Johnny,
No.
stop.
No, I'm not
Stop.
playing games anymore. I've played
Do
your
you
game
want to
long
be
enough.
cut off
Now
from
tell
this
me to stop.
discussion?
You cut me
I will
off
have
in this goddamn
you
meeting.
cut off from this discussion if you don't calm down.
Do it. You play
Okay.
that game with me, girl, you will lose.
Calm down.
Oh, God.
Johnny, listen. What we're trying to do here,
Play that game with me, girl, you're gonna
listen,
lose.
don't say a word. I'm the president of the board and I can
Jim,
move you out or not.
You
So
don't
just
have
be
a-
quiet.
you do not
Be
have the
quiet,
authority to do
Johnny.
that. You
Go
do
ahead.
not
Johnny,
have the authority. There
quiet.
is no chain of command. Give it up.
Johnny, be quiet. I am going to stop the meeting right now.
No.
I am
You wanna
going to
cancel
stop
me?
the
That's
meeting
your
right
problem.
now.
But do not tell
I
me to
am
be
going to
quiet. You
stop
don't have
the
the authority
meeting.
to take me out of the meeting.
Jim, we're just going to
Yes,
stop for
Gail.
a minute. We're going to stop for a minute and take a break.
No,
Just
you
mute.
don't right.
Mute everybody.
Can't mute me if you're legal.
Johnny,
Don't
you
mute me
said
if you're
that you
legal. I
don't.
just mean throwing it
Johnny,
out.
Johnny,
I just mean throwing out, Gail.
we,
Don't play with me
Johnny.
tonight.
Johnny, you have given us your opinion. and you have a right to your opinion, and we hear what you're saying, but for what we are doing, we five together decide what can be done and what can't be done. So, what
And
we're
you
here
can't
for,
get me muted.
Johnny, will you let me finish, please, Johnny?
I already heard
Tonight we're here. Tonight we are here. Tonight we are here to try to get together a budget that stays within the amount of money we're getting so that we can provide the best service to the district. We're not here for our own petty things. We're here for the community. And we're trying to find the best thing for the community to be able to continue. You know very well that what LAFCO told us. Let me finish. They've told it to us several times that either we were going to have to, Johnny, be quiet until I'm finished. You know very well that LAFCO told us that if we don't either get more money or change our services, we aren't going to be able to continue. So we are all trying to find a way so that we can keep a fire department with paramedics here in Morongo Valley. And that's all we should be concerned about, really. And because some of the board members do some of the research, that's okay. We're just doing research. And you are trying to make some big issue out of this. We've actually found out that something that might help the district will work. So I would like to continue on looking at the budget.
Well, no, I have a comment now. You're going to talk to him, we'll talk back to you. And I'm going to get it straight. First off, I told you for years we can call the title whatever we want. Your attorney told you we have to go back to the term of general manager. He said we can use the term general manager / fire chief if we want. We're the board, we make the rules. What I said was you cannot send to a lawyer for a legal opinion a document that's not even approved. Who knows if you're even going to use that job description that she sent to the lawyer? That had no business going to an attorney till it was approved. She sent a contract that only you and her put together, not approved by the board. You do not have the authority to do that. So you cannot be sending paperwork out saying the board agrees to this when the board hasn't had a chance to talk about it. That is
Johnny,
wrong.
we didn't say, we did not say.
Gail, that is wrong. But Gail,
Okay,
don't
Johnny.
cut me off. I'll let you talk.
You've made
I'm
your
talking.
point.
You're not talking. I'm
You've-
talking.
We,
You've
No, I
made your
haven't. I'm not
point.
done yet. You are not
actually,
gonna cut me
when I
off.
sent it to him, it is written all over the top of it, draft 3/25/2020. So we were getting an opinion on the draft. The draft.
That's not what you said.
I
Now
have
you're
a
changing the word.
question. I have a question.
Lori,
I'd like to kind of summarize and make sure I understand this correctly first.
okay.
That this lawyer for free was approached to see if that would be a term for the director that we could use when we do have a final copy of a legal document. Right? So far?
Correct. He was being asked to give us opinion of the draft.
Here's my question. Where else would you go to find out this information? Because if you write it or anything, call him Mickey Mouse if you want. You write it on the document and then it becomes a legal document. And then you ask the lawyer and he says, oh my God, it's not legal. What the hell? So I want to know where else to get this information if you don't ask somebody who knows.
If you listen to what she said, the attorney said, based on your job description. We do not have a job description. So how can he make an adjustment, comment on a job description that we don't have?
We haven't passed it
We
yet?
have a draft. We have a draft of the job
We
description.
do. We have drafts of both of them.
Okay, all right, everybody.
We have drafts of them.
What we have done, you know what? It's not going to make any difference to how we vote. We know what we've gotten. If you don't want to agree with it, Johnny, that's fine. And let's continue with what we're supposed to be doing, and that's looking at the budget and figuring out which of these budgets is going to work for us.
Well, before we begin, I'd like to say something.
Sure.
What is a budget? I want to talk about that first of all.
Excuse me?
There's a guy that wrote, a guy by the name of Matthew B. Harding back in 2016 wrote in the Iowa Law Review, he wrote an article, and the article was titled, "Show me your budget and I will tell you what you value." And there are three objectives that I think we need to maintain while we look at our budget. And the first objective is to set the goals for the future actions. And then to implement the strategies to accomplish the present goals. And then as time goes on, to compare the actual results with the budgeted results from time to time. And I got to tell you that when I look at these four budgets that are presented, I don't see anything that's planning for future actions. What I see, quite honestly, is is stagnation, is maintaining the status quo. And I brought up that point about show me your budget and I'll tell you what you value, because if we truly value protecting the life and property of the citizens of Morongo Valley, then it would be incumbent upon us to make sure that our future actions are leading us to building a strong, sustainable, and viable ground force, our first responders. And I don't see that this budget is planning ahead. I don't see that this budget looks to our immediate future or to our future. There is, instead of cutting our rank and file, instead of cutting our frontline staff, we need to be doing everything that we can to build that staff and to support that staff and to train that staff. And instead of putting money in there for, a higher end a fire chief that's going to be on call and somebody else that's supposed to come in from time to time to do duty officer responsibilities. I think we need to really be looking at training our staff and hiring the staff that we need to cover those positions. If we had sufficient captains, if we had, maintaining our battalion chief to come in on the weekends, if we were very specific in our guidelines as to what calls, the fire chief needs to go on. Quite honestly, one of the things that I would like to propose in our budget is that, first of all, I still strongly maintain that we need a general manager or director of operations, whatever you want to call it, but a separate position and a separate fire chief. We need two people in those positions. We need that balance. We need that, you guys talk about chain of command all the time. We need that chain of command. We need to get out of the way of personnel issues. And if we had a general manager, director of operations, whatever you want to call them, the chief, whatever, I don't care what you call it, really doesn't matter. But we need two separate positions. And you've already got it written down as a part-time position for the administration, for the general manager. And I'd also like to consider the opportunity of looking at a part-time fire chief. I think, Donna used to cut her hours back all the time. And I think if we're really interested in looking at building and sustaining our fire department and the services that we provide in protecting the life and the property of our citizens, then we need to make sure that we've got a good, well-trained staff that responds and takes care of our citizens. And if these positions of fire chief and general manager are administrative positions, I'd like to suggest that they can be taken care of both in a part-time basis. We're open, our offices are open from Monday through Thursday. We're closed on Fridays. Instead of an 8-hour day, we make them a 6-hour day. And I think that with 2 people in 2 24-hour positions, 48 hours a week, and we can build up our hire at least 1 more captain, so we have 2 captains, and we start really planning for strengthening our rank and file so that we can build for strike teams. We know that in the years past, we've ended up in the black because we were able to provide staff for those strike teams. And our fires are already going. I mean, Arizona's got a fire that's now over 100 square miles in just a couple of days. This is going to be a hot summer, and I think that we need to be prepared. And if we were truly looking at a budget that will help us plan and build for the future, we would be looking at a budget that is going to help us staff our frontline people, making sure that they've got what they need to provide the services and the life support services that our community so desires. So looking at what is our values, I think saving the lives of Morongo Valley is our value. And I think that we really need to look at every possible way that we can provide that. You know, there are other things that we're going to need to eventually look at, and we've talked about other funding streams, and I'm in conversation now with the captain up there in Idlewild, who has a department very similar to ours, and they run an ambulance service, and they're doing quite well with that. So there are things that we can look at that we'll need to invest in that is going to definitely be providing us with added income. So I'd like to see us work on a budget where we take our fire chief and our general manager, 2 separate positions, make them both part-time, look at hiring another fire captain, and start making sure that they've got the training, to get ready for these strike teams that we're going to definitely be called upon.
Can I ask a question?
Thank you, Matthew. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Lori.
So what it sounds like you're saying, Matthew, is that we're being too conservative. But then I think, well, where are we going to get the money for those people? And we're not allowed, maybe I'm wrong. Are we allowed on the budget to put in money we think we're going to get from strike teams? And if so, can we make
we
that
can't.
bigger?
Lori, we can't add that money.
We don't have the money to hire another captain and to split the.
But you know what? Yes, we do actually.
Where does it come from?
Well, here's what we do. We add that into the budget. We adjust the numbers. We look at some other places where we can pull some money.
Yeah, like what?
And then we fill in the rest of it from some of our reserves. And then what we do is we replenish those reserves as we start earning money from our strike teams. But you know what? Sometimes you got to balance things around, and you got to pull some money out, and you got to take a look and maybe tighten our belts here and there. Here's the other thing about budgets. Budgets also are a guideline. They're something that we can adjust as time goes on. We don't have to wait for every 6 months or the year to readjust our budget. If we need to readjust the budget going forward, we can do that at any time. But I strongly believe that if we look at our numbers and with Bonnie's help, we can find some other places where we can pull a few dollars from here and there, and then fill in with some money from our reserves so that, you know,
Yeah,
we
besides,
we can start earning the money. I mean, we have a program also with our cost recovery. We haven't utilized that. We've offered, several months ago, we signed up for a company that was supposed to help us reclaim some of the costs that we can file against our people's insurance companies, not local members of our community, but other things.
yeah, we talked about that.
And so there's you know, there's monies that we can get.
Okay. Do you have some points, some specific points of the budget where you think we can do some cutting that you want to discuss?
Well,
Did you come prepared with a budget draft adjustment?
no, I don't have that. I don't have that knowledge, to be honest with you. I don't have that capability, to be honest with you. I don't, you know, as far as like pulling those numbers out of here and putting them over there. And I was hoping maybe Bonnie could help us out with that.
So basically, Matthew, you've got a theory or a something that you think might be able to happen, but we don't have any particulars on how to get from where you are to our budget.
Yeah, that's my question.
So I don't know if Bonnie wants to come into this discussion or not. She's here and she's welcome to say whatever it is she'd like to say. But I just know that from all indications, our community in 2016 said they did not want to pay for they did not want to pay more for their fire department and parks, the CSD.
Right.
So what we've been doing since 2016 is we've been trying to make the money that we have work so that we can continue with the service. And I think actually in the last couple of years, we've done a really good job in actually having even a bit of money over what we should have had. And of course, some of it was from the strike team. But it goes to show you that combining those two, the director of operations and have the general manager, that position also has saved us money and has made things work for us. And
you know what? But
that's
I'm
my
sorry.
opinion.
I'm sorry. I just strongly disagree with that. I don't see how or where it has saved us money. I don't think it has worked for the community. The community, everybody that I talk to is not on board with a single person handling all of that responsibility. Everybody
Okay.
that I've talked to wants two positions. I mean, you have one person that is our fire chief, our general manager, our treasurer, our secretary. I mean, that's you know, there's so many potential.
And that's all fine and dandy, but where is this money going to get cut from? That's the question.
Well,
The other
That was the
problem,
reason for what I did.
well, the other problem in
ahead.
the past,
Christina?
over the 8 years I've been serving on the board, the other thing that has happened in the past, and I have spoken to past general managers and fire chiefs and so forth, and what has happened is a lot of times the general manager does not have the state and federal knowledge of fire laws, and so a lot of times there's disagreements and a waste of a lot of time between the general manager and the fire chief trying to hash out what the laws are and the labor and all that kind of thing. And a lot of times the general manager would pass her duties and responsibilities onto the fire chief anyhow. And if you just said that you weren't sure how much money we're saving, well, by combining the jobs, it used to be $48,000 for a general manager and $54,000 for a fire chief, which is $102,000 when they were separated. Fire chief and general manager were 48 for general manager, 54 for fire chief, and that's when they were separated, and that came out to 102. when we
And that
asked,
didn't include, Christina, that did not include all the benefits, and the
no, that's
taxes and
just
everything.
pure salary.
Right.
And then when we combined it, we gave the $54,000 of the fire chief salary, and we cut the general managers in half to be 24,000. And so the new hourly or salary, I'm sorry, not benefits or anything, but salary moved from 102,000 to 78,000. So right there, that is a savings of 24,000. And then if you add the fact that we
Have
went
a
up,
comment at this time.
pardon me,
Just a
102
minute.
minus 78.
Hang on.
So
Have a
100,
comment
Let
at this
her
time. I'm
finish.
gonna correct something.
Let her finish.
Johnny, wait until she's finished.
Yeah, that's
Writing
fine.
numbers
you can maybe fill in, if you don't think the numbers are right, we can look at the numbers in a second again, but okay, so 102
I'll explain to you.
is a savings of 24,000. And then not to mention the benefits on top of that, because you don't have to get health benefits for 2 people. You don't have to pay workers' comp for 2 people. You don't have to do all the benefit package. So you can probably conservatively say, by combining these 2 positions, we've saved $40,000 for the district in 1 year.
Okay. Now,
Okay, so
now
I'm
I'm
done.
gonna break it down to you a little bit better. Yeah, we paid over 100,000. We paid over $100,000 for 2 people, correct?
102,
Now, if
48
you
plus
want to look at the
54.
total budget we spent for one person,
Pardon me?
right? So let's say here, 54 plus 24 is 78. Excuse me, is 54 plus 24 78,000?
Yes,
Is that equal 78,000?
correct.
And then you just pay out another 83,000 to the same individual. Tell me what you say to Penny.
Okay, the
So if we add up
$83,000,
78 and 83.
you're talking about the settlement, right?
No, it went to the same person.
Yes.
I'm talking
so
about
Penny,
where you came up with the idea that we were supposed to pay, $25 an hour.
no,
We've
actually,
never paid
well,
anybody in this district $25 an hour until you brought that up, Christina. So you're
Okay,
telling me
so-
that when we pay one individual $78,000 a year, and then on top of that, give that same individual another $25 an hour for 14 hours a night?
no, that's
you're
not
even
accurate.
No, that's
supposed
not
to
what
say
we did,
accurate,
Johnny.
Johnny. That's not accurate.
Money
Because,
in this
Actually, when that you're talking about
That's
the
very
settlement,
much-
you're talking about the settlement, and
Well,
when
Christina,
all was said and done, when all was said and done, he actually made about $7.25 an hour because he settled with us for a 66% discount off of what that would be if we used the 25. So he got $7.25 an hour. Then we needed to make sure that that was okay, because there's some question about, well, can you actually pay somebody lower than the minimum wage, which is $12 an hour? And yes, you can. A labor attorney verified that you can pay less than the minimum wage as long as it's in a settlement agreement. And so he really only ended up getting $7.25 an hour, not 25.
Christina, you tried to pay the man $25 an hour for 14 hours a night.
That was the calculation before he did the discount.
No. Let me finish. Let me give the public straight information. Let us not give the fantasy. Straight information is, you want to pay this man to work duty hours of 14 hours a night on top of his salary. So there is no way, I don't care what you were trying to make it up as, you're saving a penny. By having one person stand in that position, you're doing a $140,000 a year job. You can't cut it, excuse me, $150,000. You
Okay,
can't cut
yes,
it
and
any other way.
that is why the budgets
Well,
are not
$150,000,
proposing.
That's 3 employees.
Okay, that is why the budgets are
That's
not proposing to go
employees,
forward in that
150,000
manner. Okay, he actually did 2.5 years worth of work that he never really would have asked for any reimbursement, except for these conflicts that keep on happening. Okay, and so then he finally asked us after 2.5 years, he was done and he wanted some compensation. He didn't ask for 2.5 years though for it. And that is why going forward in the budget, we are not recommending that we pay our fire chief that. he was just doing that work out of the goodness of his heart until all the conflicts started happening. Then he asked for a settlement, and the settlement came out to $7.25 an hour, which is below minimum wage, but which is allowable. So we are done with that settlement. And moving forward on this budget, we are not suggesting that the fire chief provide those services anymore. I think the budget is suggesting that we be able to hire a stipended person to do that work so that we will not have to pay that anymore. So you need to look at apples and apples, not apples and apples and oranges. So
I've looked at apples and apples, and you're not. That's the problem. You're trying to hide the fact that you boasted to everybody that he was not making $100,000 a year, but then you turned around and said we need to pay him X $25 an hour. And then
he asked for that. He asked for some settlement. He worked for 2.5 years for nothing.
You say you weren't paying him $100,000 a year, then you try to give him more than that.
Because he had to be reimbursed, Johnny.
More than $100,000 a year for the last 2.5 years.
Stop.
Simple.
Stop.
No, I'm
Everybody
not.
stop.
I'm talking.
Everybody stop. Everybody stop.
God.
I can see that we're going to just go over this. And Johnny, you've got your point of view, and we've got our point of view. The duty officer coverage that Mr. Yearsley did for us for 2.5 years meant that he was here on site and went out in the middle of the night, sometimes 2 or 3 times a night, to go along with the rest of the guys and be that extra person. So what I hear coming from you, Johnny, is that you're unhappy paying one person a certain amount of money because you don't think that person should have that much money. Well, we're not talking about how much money somebody should get. We're talking about the services they're providing and what is a fair and legal way to pay them for those services. And it's been proven in the last 2.5 years that it works best when we have the joint position and when we work through having, we've put in the new budget doing the duty officer coverage a little bit differently, which will also save us some money.
I have a question for Chief Brakebill.
What, Johnny?
I have a question for Chief Brakebill.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead, Johnny.
How long have you been a fire chief, sir?
24 years.
Does the fire chief need to respond to every call?
No, it's at the discretion of the fire chief.
So what you're telling me is that we put a man down there, gave him a place to live, paid him extra money to go on calls. He didn't need to go on?
No, he still has to make himself available, especially during the wildland fire season. So he has to be available, but no, he doesn't have to go on every call. It's at his discretion.
Whether he's on the truck or not, he's available to help.
So your theory of him having to go on every call is that Dr. Watergale. He didn't need to go on every call. So that was an experience that we didn't have to have.
Okay, and that is something that is said on social media a lot, that we are
10 of those calls a year.
So
if we're discussing the budget and how we're going to do our salary, it matters.
Right, and so does something else. So when on the social media, it's talking about we give Gary a place to live and all this kind of thing. So what I did was I asked Bonnie, and well, actually Gail asked Bonnie, if she could please pull the Southern California Edison bills for the past longitudinal study that I did. So I went back to 2015, 16, 17, 18, and 19. And what happened was, even if you don't even look at the price of electricity increasing or the fact that we might have had more people in the fire department, the bottom line is it went up about $80 per month. And if you do $80 a month divided by 30 days, it comes out to $2.67 per day of electricity, extra electricity, because that's really the only thing that is extra. So $2.67 a day. Now, if we had to have him roll in from where he actually lives, the mileage, because mileage is reimbursed at 57.5 cents per mile, it would actually cost $124 to have him roll in from out of our area.
Per what?
So is it better to pay him
Christina, you think you forget
$2.67
we've
a
already
day for
gone over this?
electricity? Or is it better to have him pay $124 one time that he has to come in, which would be way more than the electricity that's even paid for in a month extra?
So the 124 is per
If
instance.
you had to go from
Per month?
his house,
No, Johnny, I'm trying to get this clarified. You're saying the $124 mileage per instance or per day, not per month?
per instance, because
For instance,
Wow.
it's approximately, it's about 107 miles between our fire station and where the chief lives. So if you go 107 plus 107, that's 214 miles that you would have to reimburse at 0.575 a mile. That's 123.05. So 123 or $4 to have them roll one time in the month versus $2.67 a day for being here and being able to respond in our community from the fire station. Because there's also
Okay.
another rule that the managers cannot live in the same place as the line staff live.
Okay, I have another comment, that,
but
and
you
it
should
relates
forget
to
we've
what,
already had this conversation.
Johnny, can I
about,
say something,
driving
Johnny,
the
please?
vehicle back and forth.
Johnny, may I
Go ahead,
say
Gail.
something, please?
I'm telling you.
Go ahead, Gail.
In looking at what Matthew is saying and what Johnny is saying about our great firefighters and how we want to do everything we can to make them advance in their learning, and we want to keep them safe, don't you think that having the fire chief on board in those nighttime calls or the daytime calls, that is something that actually helps our district? It doesn't
No.
take away from our district. It helps our district because they have an extra hand, they have an extra person looking, at what's going on. And I know for a fact that Chief Yearsley has gone out on all the calls in the middle of the night. Some nights 3 calls in the middle of the night. We did not provide him a place to stay. He brought his fifth wheel and hooked it up, and he pays some of the stuff to have it cleaned out, and we got it approved by the Health and Safety Department of the county. And it's been a great benefit for the district to have our fire chief or our director of operations right on site for 4 days a week. That's my opinion. So I would,
Okay, Gail, that's what I have to say.
yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm going to answer Christina now. You seem to forget, we've already had this conversation, Christina, when we talked about him taking the command vehicle home every weekend. And even his comment was maybe 2 times a year you have to drive back. So $80 a month versus 2 times a year. I don't think so, Christina. You've already lost the argument months ago.
I'm lost.
He does not have to be.
All I'm saying is, when people are saying he's living on our dime, quote unquote, on social media, it comes out to $2.67 of electricity.
Let me finish.
to
You
be
were talking,
here.
I didn't interrupt you. It's real simple.
Okay,
You've already tried this. It doesn't work.
I'm not sure what
What-
calculation you're talking about.
what doesn't work? Johnny,
What
what is it that doesn't work?
Money doesn't work.
What
What
calculation?
doesn't work?
The argument that
Specifically, be
we're
specific.
for the director of operations does not work.
Okay,
I don't care if
Johnny,
it's Bill Julie, I don't care if it's Bongo the Clown. The director of
But what-
operations position did not work and has not
What,
worked
but
financially.
you are not answering the question, Johnny.
You
What
said this.
about it doesn't work?
Yeah,
What
exactly.
doesn't work? You won't
Exactly.
give us anything
It doesn't work.
specific that doesn't work.
in other
What
words, you
doesn't
use the
work?
pronoun
Because
this.
you
If we
tell
don't know
me
what you're
that
talking about.
105,000
Here, wait a minute. When we get the 911 call, do our guys always go out on a 911 call?
That's their
Do they?
responsibility, yeah.
Well, I think they do, okay. When things need to be fixed at the park, do they get done? Yeah, I think they
Sometimes.
do.
Sometimes.
When we have meetings, does the director of operations have the things that he needs to relate to the district, to the board?
No,
I think
No.
so. I think so.
no,
Well, I don't agree with you on that, but you're not going to agree on anything, Johnny. You and Matthew are set on seeing it in two positions, but you can't give us any idea of what it's going to cost. You've had this for at least a week to look it
I
over and
just
say,
told you,
okay,
Jerry,
yeah,
it's very
I
simple. It's
I
very
wanna take
simple.
money.
105,000 for two people or 150,000 for one. What makes more sense?
No, we're not.
105,000
The
for
new
two or
budget.
We're not
150
saying
for one?
that.
What
No,
makes
the
more
new
sense?
budget, new budget does not call for giving Chief Yearsley $150,000. You are being erroneous in the way you are talking about this, and it's called throwing out a red herring. That is not what
No,
we're
I'm not.
talking about. We are not
Show
talking
me
about
on
him
the
doing this
spreadsheet.
coverage anymore. We're talking about having a volunteer stipended position.
Show me.
Okay,
That's what we're talking
Madam
about.
President, I have a speaker that raised their hand. They want to ask a question. It's the iPhone guest. Go ahead. You can unmute yourself.
Okay.
My concern is I thought the operations manager is to be hiring people to take care of these situations, that this $80,000 that we ended up paying him, if he would have, in my opinion, as a taxpayer, did his job and hired somebody like he should have done, we wouldn't have had to be paying out any kind of settlement to him. But you guys, evidently you guys as a board don't see his shortfallings. And you guys really need to start considering there's a lot of things that seem to be coming up short in every single meeting. I mean, he is the secretary of the board. Why are the agendas all messed up? Every time you guys have to cancel a meeting, that's because he hasn't done his job. And I'm having a real problem with the board not seeing this. That's my concern. You guys are talking about him only getting $102,000. Well, I'm sorry. Right now, I don't feel that he has earned that $102,000
Yeah,
because
actually,
he
we're
has not done his job. He has not hired people. He has not brought in people, but instead he padded his own wallet. And that's where
Okay.
I think a lot of taxpayers are having problems. And I'm not going to stay on here any longer, but you guys need to understand that's where the taxpayers are coming from. They're seeing all of his flaws. Every
Okay.
time a meeting gets canceled. I mean, we're a joke on 107.7. You know, another meeting canceled. Well, guess what? That's because he's not doing his job. So that's all I have to say. I hope as a board, you guys can get it together. Tonight is supposed to be about the budget. I would like to hear about the budget, not hear you guys argue. Thank you.
I agree. Thank you very much. I will comment. I will make it. Yes.
Madam
Yes.
President, Bonnie has her hand up. Taxes by Bonnie.
Okay. Bonnie.
Hi.
I'd like to answer that, Bonnie, that what this gal just said.
You want to do
first.
that?
Is
and
that
then
all right
I'll-
with you?
Yes, that's fine.
Yeah. I just want to say that we have had other people in those positions that were hired as the duty officers. We had 2 different people. They did not work out. They were not doing the job correctly. They weren't doing what they were supposed to do. And after we had to get rid of them, we could not find anybody that would say they would be available from 6 at night until 8 in the morning, 4 days a week. We couldn't get somebody who wanted that kind of duty coverage. So it's not that we haven't tried. It's not that the chief hasn't tried to find somebody. We couldn't find somebody. Okay, Bonnie.
Okay, so I just want to clarify some stuff on the budgeting process because I think we're getting, arguing over past things, and Director Campos has the right idea. We need to figure out how to go forward. So on April
Right.
17th of 2013, the board passed a resolution, and we do have a financial practices guide. That guide establishes how we do our budgets. When the titles were taken away from board members, this is kind of getting pushed by the wayside. But this policy says that the process for establishing the budget for the upcoming year should start prior to April with input submitted to the general manager from various committee chairpersons, board members, fire chief, staff, bookkeeping service, contractors, and vendors. The general manager, fire chief, bookkeeper, and finance director shall compile the information and work together to arrive at a draft budget for processing to the finance committee for review in May. The finance committee will review the draft budget in May and forward it through the manager to the board of directors for their review in June. After the board of directors has adopted the draft budget, the treasurer and finance director will present the draft as a preliminary budget for the board adoption at a public meeting in July prior to the final adjustments and adoption of a final budget by August. After the board of directors approves the final budget at its August meeting, it will be sent to the county and state controller's office as required by the California regulation. As a practice of facilitating a mid-year review of the budget in January with adjustments to the budget made by resolution at public meeting in February can assist in maintaining operational control and cost management as adjustments at that time and are made based on currently experienced revenue and expenditure data over the last 6 months. I feel like that we're trying to make decisions on a budget. Gary and I have worked, but we haven't had input from others, and now others want to have input to that. And I think we're missing that step of having a finance committee to go through these and look at the different options and the calculations, because it is difficult to calculate workers' comp and payroll taxes and benefits and all of those things on the fly. So I would like to see us get back to what our financial practices, which is a resolution passed by the board, and we should be doing things that way.
That is very well taken, Bonnie. Again, another number just got thrown out erroneously on social media. The 102,000 is our old way when we had two separate positions. The combined salary in the new way is 78,000. So it's not 102,000, whoever that was making a comment. That was the old way when we had a separate fire chief and a separate GM. Now in the combined position of director of ops, it is 78,000. And the settlement is a completely different thing. It has nothing to do, and it's not where we want to go in the future.
So Bonnie, what you're saying is that none of us can look through this budget and actually sit down and look at it and say, oh, well, we could take some money out of here and we can put it over here so we can have this or that. You don't think that we're capable of doing that? Is that what you're saying?
No, that's not what I'm saying, Gail. I read from page 5 of the Morongo Valley CSD Financial Practices Guide approved by the board as to what our district policy is and procedures for doing a budget. That has no reference to any of you being able to make those decisions. I gave you guys spreadsheets that you could put numbers in and come up with your own budgeting plan.
Right.
So
Right.
that's there. But what I'm saying is that this was a policy put in place by Mr. LaBelle, who put a lot of time into figuring out a way for us to do this. And I feel like we have missed the way of doing this. I have always sat down up until the last couple of years. I've always sat down with the finance director and the general manager, and usually at least input from one other person as to options for the budget. And we've kind of lost that. And there are options. And no one is saying on this budget that we have here that we've got a general manager, either full-time or part-time, duty officers, and Gary and I have been doing research on that, finding out whether or not we can pay our existing staff on call versus the stipends because with the new AB5 laws, it does make it very difficult to have a stipend position. So we're trying to get the answers to those things and do it in a reasonable cost to the district so that we can have other plans out there.
Well, I thought, so what are the different plans that we have here? We've got number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4, which are all a little bit different.
Right, and they
So
know
now you're
no, they're
now
not
you're saying there's other things that are, we could do another number 5 that would be different.
what I'm
Is that
saying
what
is
you're saying, Bonnie?
the 4 budgets that you have only have 2 changes. There's 2 issues that we did not have the right answers to. One is, can a duty officer from home be a stipend position or a minimum wage position? That is the duty officer 81,000 versus 44. And the other option on here is just whether you have a full-time or a part-time general manager position, not stating who that person is, just whether you would pay full or part-time. That's the only difference between these 4 budgets. But as we're doing a little bit more research, looking at this to find out if we could even do the stipends. When you look at the qualifications on AB5 and these people being volunteers, but we're controlling having them be available, is that truly a volunteer? Can we pay a stipend to existing staff? Can we pay minimum wage or double time to do a callback if there's only a minimal number of calls per year? And so we have been gathering more information. That's why on those lines you will see need an opinion on options, because we need to find out what we can legally do so that we don't end up with lawsuits telling us we're doing it the wrong way.
Right. And Bonnie, you also, of course, are looking into FSLA law that shows that you could pay a stipend as long as it wasn't more than 20% of a full salary and benefits of a firefighter in your department, right? You looked at that as well.
Right, 20% of a full-time in that normal position, but also in those classifications, it is freely offers to serve, less than full times, it's typical, and we're not displacing an employee. We just compensated a duty officer. So are we displacing a volunteer by having a stipend position? So do we really meet that qualification on the volunteer? We need to know the answer to that.
Right. And I read the whole FSLA booklet. So, but I'm not, I'm not a labor attorney, but it sure did seem like a good strategy.
Right. But then you've also got to, we're in California. FSLA is nationwide. California is going to trump, override what's the benefit of the employee. Being able, I found a lot of information on engage to wait or waiting to engage as far as paying a callback employee. So maybe keeping the money in the district to our existing staff if we have to call back rather than bringing in more people from the outside. We have some more options. We have to get something for LAFCO. We have to get a budget approved. When I'm reading what Mr. LaBelle had read, it looks like we do an adoption of at a public meeting in July, prior to final adjustments, and an adoption of a final budget by August according to the financial practices. So do we have a financial, what do they call it? They call it the finance committee to actually have some ideas on this?
Well, it sounds like Matthew has an idea for a budget number 5. And if we have time, could that budget number 5 be fleshed out and brought to the board?
Well, I know if we have to do a final approval, and one of the reasons I had, pushed to have the meeting now is because we had to be 20 days out. So and it has to be approved, because I'm reading this financial practices guide for the district, but it says adoption at a public meeting in July prior to final adjustments and an adoption of a final budget by August. So maybe we do have a little extra time there. Because it says that the final budget is approved at the August meeting, not the July meeting.
But when do the 20 days roll? When does the 20 days come into effect?
Johnny knows the answer to that.
Okay, what you're talking about the 20 days is once we publish a preliminary budget, what you're talking about, we we have to do the final budget in an open public hearing in our regular meeting. We must give the public a minimum of 20 days from the time we pass our preliminary budget to the time we pass our final budget in the open public hearing. That way they can review the budget and have any questions, because it's open public hearing, that is one of the few times we have a question and answer period with the public. They get to come in and ask us anything about the budget they want, and we have to answer those questions. And then once we've answered their questions satisfactorily, then we can approve our final budget. Now, if we
So-
get into a loggerhead and everything like that, then we're gonna start the process over. But we
So
have to
what's-
give them a
would-
minimum of 20 days from the time the preliminary budget's passed to the time we pass the final budget.
So what would be 20 days before 7/15 when we would have the next board meeting?
Friday,
What would be 20 days before that?
Friday. We have to have everything done and out to the public by Friday. That's our 20 days. If we're gonna try and pass the final budget on July 15th, we have until Friday. I know this because Bonnie talked to me about it before, so we counted it down. So we'd have to have everything done by Thursday night and ready to be published Friday morning, so the public can have their 20 days.
Now, Johnny, if the financial practices that Mr. LaBelle wrote says prior to final adjustments and adoption of a final budget by August. So if nothing has changed, is that meaning that that would be the August meeting that would need the 20 days prior?
We've done that in the
Well,
past, yes.
Are we sure? Are we sure that that was from 2013?
Okay, okay, this is what we're looking at also. I think everybody's always gotten tied up with the idea of the fiscal year. Understand that the fiscal year, we all know, begins July 1st. So we always would like to have our budget to the state of California prior to the beginning of the fiscal year, so that we're operating off of the new budget when the fiscal year begins. We have until, I want to say September. I know it's after July 1st. And in the past, yes, we've gone as far as August, the middle of August, to our regular meeting, when we do an open public hearing for everything we post in the paper. So no, do we have to have it done by July 1st? No. Would they prefer for it to be done by July 1st? Yes. Will they accept it August? Yes. Will they accept it in September? Yes. We just have to notify the California State Controller that we're in the process of getting it done. Because if you remember, Gail, you weren't on the board, but Christina, you may remember this. Remember we had that Saturday, we did the 8-hour budget workshop?
Yes.
We were down there all day, and we went through, I don't know how many different scenarios on the budget. We gave raises, we took raises away. We did all kind of stuff that day to get our budget straight. And that's what I think Bonnie's talking about, is just doing a line item budget, go down, we can make a change here, make it not change there. Matthew has an idea of part-time fire chief, part-time general manager. I thought of one of the part-time general manager, but also it gives the public whose money we're spending a chance to say, look, try this before we do it in our final budget. Because if we do it right, we should have nobody complain in open public hearing. If we don't do it right, people can make complaints in open public hearing, and we could be starting this whole process all over again. I think everybody would agree, we do not want to go through this again.
Well, for myself, speaking for myself, I'm willing to listen to a budget number 5 if we have the time to. It sounds like you're saying, sometimes you're saying it has to be done by Friday, June 26th, but then you're, because that's 20 days out from July 15th. But then you're saying maybe it's not. But maybe we could meet again on Friday with budget number 5.
Christina, can I help you with that a little bit? What I'm saying is, Gail has said to the board, and the board has agreed that we were going to do a final budget by July 15th at our next regular meeting. Because we all agreed that by law, we can only do a final budget in a regular meeting.
Right.
So if we want to do the final budget by July 15th, then yes, Friday is our 20 days. If we're saying we are able to, if we're saying we're willing to work on this and not have it done on July 15th, but have it in our August meeting, then yes, your 20 days go out the window if you have the 20 days prior to your August meeting. Does that make sense now what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, let me look at the date of August.
If we're going to do it by July 15th, it has to be done by Friday. If we're going to do it in August, it changes all that. You understand that, Christina?
She's away from her desk for a minute.
Well,
I know this.
then I definitely vote that we have our final meeting of our final budget in August. So we
So
can-
August would be, I just checked the calendar, that's why I got up. August 19th
Okay.
is
Right.
that day.
20 days from that is July 31st.
But would that be the day when the community is weighing in on it, or do they weigh in on it on July 15th?
Okay, no, what you're talking about is this. Tonight, normally when we do a budget workshop, is one of the things we give the public a chance to comment to us on. Look at the budget, this is what we're proposing, and make comments on what we're doing it. Now, on the final budget, which is the open public hearing, they have the right to come in and say, no, yes, no, whatever, and we might have to change, we might not have to change. If you think about it, in the 8 years you and I have been on this board, we've never had anybody come to us in open public hearing and complain about our budget. But we have had people talk to us during budget workshops. And we've done sometimes more than one budget workshop. We
Okay.
have to do the work to whatever gets it done. As long as
So
we
could
keep in
you
mind
guys have
what
budget
we're
number
cooking with.
5 prepared by Friday, the June 26th?
I think we need to have, and I don't know how your people work, but we need to have more than just Gary and I working on this. I mean, Gary has done an awesome job cutting back costs on so many places, the repairs, the supplies. He's cut everything back. I think within the next week, obviously, we're going to know exactly what we spent for the last fiscal year and where the expenditures were. So, but
Well,
we
if
need,
Matthew has this vision, I think he should be on the committee to do it. And then we can only have one other board member because we can only have 2 people. So the president could tell who she wants, or somebody can volunteer to be the second person to do budget number 5 by Friday.
So by Friday.
Well,
so
I'm
how
just
would you
thinking if we
guys-
did it by Friday, then we
Well-
could stay on a better schedule to be able to
Okay.
vote on it on
Well,
July
I-
15th.
Christina,
definitely,
understand something. Hold on a second, Matthew, and I said, make a comment real quick.
go ahead.
Christina, Friday is when it has to be posted to the public. We have to
Right.
agree upon it before Friday. In other words, you're talking Thursday.
Okay, so you'd post to the public on June 26th, but we'd have to have the budget ready by June 25th, Thursday.
We have to have our preliminary budget passed if we are going to do a final budget passel in July 15th. If we're not going to do it July 15th, then Friday goes out the window. Just
Okay,
understand. Look at our regular meetings. You gotta look at our regular meetings. And know, as you all know, we have to pass a final budget. We can only pass a final budget in a regular meeting.
right.
Okay, we can't do any specials. We can't add any day. So
Right,
what that
right,
means
right.
is July 15th, August 19th. Those are the 2 days you're looking at. So if you want to try and pass a final budget by July 15th, one meeting Thursday for preliminary budget. If you want to pass the final budget on August 19th, we have a lot more time.
Gail,
Yeah,
so I'd like to go ahead then, and I'd like to make a motion that we set our final budget date for August 19th. That gives the public enough time, gives us enough time to put the numbers together, gives them enough time to look at the numbers, and we'll have to then, back count, what days we have to do what. But if we set a hard and fast date of August 19th, that will be the date that we finalize our budget.
Is
Our
it
regular,
20
open-
business days or 20 days period? Johnny, what is it? 20 business days or 20 days period?
Calendar,
What?
period, calendar days.
It's
The 20
20 calendar days.
20 calendar days?
20
Calendar days.
is 20 calendar days. It's not days, it's calendar days.
19, 20.
So
Okay, so
Saturday,
20
Sunday
days
is-
prior to that is July 30th. 20 days
Okay.
prior to,
So we have to have a
19.
budget workshop. So we
So we
need
can
a
ha-
budget workshop, passing a preliminary budget before,
by July 30th, right?
that
And
would be
then we
20
can-
days, yeah. 20 full days, not business days, but full days, yeah.
Right.
So then on the
So-
July,
But
15?
here's
calendar days.
Hold it. Matthew's got something.
here's something to consider. I mean, if we decide that we want to set August 19th as our final date, we still have our meeting in July, and that gives plenty of time, you know, so we can do our regular meeting in July with the budget. That gives us plenty of time for everything. We don't have to count back 20 days and all that other stuff. So
No, nobody has agreed yet to a finance committee to help out Chief and Bond.
well, I will do that. Johnny, you help me with that?
I have no problem doing it. I've done it in the past.
I don't think so.
Wait a minute, hold on. The financial practices guide, since we don't have a finance director, we would have one board director, and then there would be a member with financial background that would be willing to serve on the community. So it would be one board member, myself, the chief, and possibly a community member if there's one that would be interested.
Okay. So Matthew, you'll take that on.
Yes.
And I think we might be able to get a person in the community that's a financial person. I mean, Don Kraus has been coming to these meetings, and I think that's what he used to do. He was somehow a financial planner or something. So we can ask him if you like. And what will you do, meet on Zoom? Is that how you'll meet, Bonnie?
Well, I mean, I guess that's going to be up to the committee as to determine how comfortable they feel.
Okay.
Gail, Jim says that he can do the Zoom for the committee if they would like it.
Okay.
His new toy.
So when do you want to plan that meeting? Can we set a date, Matthew?
Well, I suppose it also would depend on, well, sure, whatever, what's good for Bonnie.
And we're trying to do this before what date?
Gail, have we decided, because I put a motion on the floor for August 19th. It hadn't been seconded yet.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay,
Can you
Matthew
say it
and-
again? Can you state it again, the motion, please, Matthew?
The motion is that to have a date certain of August 19th for our final budget.
Okay.
All right. Matthew has proposed it. Johnny has seconded it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's set. So now you just have to, Jim, is Don Kraus in the audience by any chance?
No, Gail, he is not.
Okay, all right. We can get in touch with him.
So it would be Bonnie
So-
and Matthew and Don and Director of Operations Yearsley.
Right.
Okay.
And when do you want to try to set that, Matthew?
I guess we need to get our community member first and find out who that's going to be.
Well, there's several of us here right now. Next week is fine. I've got time next week.
Okay.
It's a lot of it has to depend on Bonnie. I think.
Yeah.
More of us are flexible.
Next week, I would only have Monday or Tuesday available.
Okay.
Either
Would you
is
rather,
fine with me.
I'm sorry?
Either Monday or Tuesday is fine with me.
Okay.
Okay, that's two.
Monday the 29th, this is fine with me.
Okay, so all we have to do is check with the community member and see if we can get them on that day also, and then we should be fine.
I
Yeah.
think Gail might be calling him.
I'm calling him to see if he's available. On Monday the 29th, what, at 6 o'clock, same? Same time?
Do we want to do it during the day?
I don't care. It's probably best for Bonnie if we did it during the day. Yes, that's a good
Hey,
idea.
Don, call me when you
Bonnie?
can at scale. Thank you. He's not available. You know, he's not there right now. I'll keep calling him. So what time did you say on Monday?
We're checking with
Matthew
Bonnie.
mentioned it'd be good for Bonnie during the day, and I agree.
Okay.
Bonnie, what is your time frame?
I can, at this point, let me just double check something to make sure I don't have anything on a schedule I'm not looking at. Oops. Yeah, my office logged out in the midst of all of this, so I have to log back in just to double check. But I think any time on Monday is fine. I don't think I have anything else on my agenda or my schedule that's for that.
Okay. Do you prefer the morning or the afternoon?
I don't have a preference.
Okay, then we'll say 10 o'clock on Monday, the 29th.
And if we have any other people that have input as to a staffing pattern, because most of it, there's not a lot we can do with a lot of the things in the budget because they are what they are. We've cut back so many things, but the staffing patterns and the ideas are really the biggest issue.
Yes.
Right.
And now you do know it's legal to combine the titles. There's no problem with that.
Right.
If we want to go forward, I mean, it's legal.
Okay, well, I think everybody, except for our community member, is fine. Jim's fine with Tim, 10 o'clock. I am, Bonnie is, and
Okay.
Matthew also.
Well, I'll get in touch with Don at some point today.
And if
Yeah.
Don, if he's not available, is there someone else that has like maybe commented or shown interest by commenting in to the?
Well, Terry Hone used to be the finance director for
yeah.
a city government. I think it was Laguna Beach or Laguna Niguel or Laguna Beach, one of those other. And Terry Hone she has very good financial background as well.
Yeah, that's a good thought. Well, I'll try Don first and then I'll try Terry. And hopefully one of them will be available. Okay. Are there any other questions from the audience? From our the
Yeah, there
public?
was that one. Sorry, I didn't get a chance to read it. Okay, it's also from Allison Nye about the budget. Off-duty officer should not be a paid position. It is a responsibility for firefighters, not a financial position. It was never on any past budget proposal, yet Gary Yearsley received $81,000 for this vernal contract. Vernal, V-E-R-N-A-L. The CSD board went against your own legal counsel's opinion on this matter. He had no proof and yet got paid with taxpayer money. Gary Yearsley has committed misappropriation of taxpayer money. If Gary Yearsley was never called while off duty, why is he paid for being on standby? It was not utilized in the past, so why is it considered a paid position for this upcoming budget proposal? This is a waste of taxpayer money.
So, Gary, do you want to? Gary, do you want to answer that, or do you want me to answer it?
It doesn't matter. Go ahead. It's just the position's got to be filled by someone. So it is a position we have to fill as a duty officer. It always has.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Is there
Go ahead, Lori.
is there any way that the person can be paid only if they're called in?
Well, they have to be on call 24 hours a day or during the time period that they need the person to respond.
Right.
They're
So
not.
it's not really fair to say you're on call the next 48 hours, but we're not going to pay you if we don't have any
Right.
emergency, right?
Right.
So
That's,
that, and I think the public needs to understand that. On
We have-
call is still working.
Like, for
We-
example, you wouldn't be able to go to your niece's birthday party and have a glass of wine because you are on call.
Right.
Matthew has something to add.
We
You
got
can
to
hear them.
remember that duty officer is not a position, but an assignment.
Yes.
Okay, it is not a position. You can't go to any other fire department and say, oh, let me talk to your duty officer. Duty officer is an assignment that is usually assigned to your captains. And that's what I want to do, is make sure we can get rid of that whole question and issue when we are properly staffed. And if we have one captain, if we're able to bring in another captain, and then we've got our battalion chief on the weekends, we've got the duty coverage covered 24/7. And we don't have to hire anybody. It's not a paid position. It is an assignment that we need to have assigned to staff that's already here.
okay,
Well,
no,
Matthew,
you're wrong on that fact. Duty officers are usually battalion chiefs for county and battalion chiefs for CAL FIRE. Captains do it as when they get on scene, but they should be relieved by someone that is not connected with your team that is on the truck to either start working a fire. Because if you take one of them for your duty officer, that pulls them from the group that can work the fire.
And it also sounds
Well-
like a rather expensive proposition because you will have to pay people overtime.
well, if you, I mean,
It's funny that
this,
we ran this fire department for how many years before we brought it in union, and the term duty officer never came up.
Well, it's in the MOU
Yeah, we
now.
have no problem working with CAL FIRE, with county fire. So don't sit there and say it's a mandatory position, because it's not.
Well, it's in the MOU now. It didn't used to be in the we didn't have an MOU, but now we do, and it's in the MOU.
well, when you, Matthew and Bonnie and Gary and whoever from the community comes together, if you can find money for stuff, show it to us. I want to see it. I want to see it on paper, where you're going to get the money to do this, how you're going to arrange this, to have the money to do it. Because our budget has not really been getting very much more. Our income has not gone up very much, but a lot of the services that we provide have gone up considerably, especially having to do with the paramedic, the paramedic service. So find the money. Let's look at it at our meeting on July the, what is it?
15.
July the 15th.
That's a regular
Okay.
meeting.
All right. Anything else? Okay. I am going to close the open meeting, and we're going to move into the closed session to talk about finish up the MOU. You do that for us, Jim?
I had it. Where'd I put it? You guys gotta go potty? Come on, buddy. You wanna go potty? Come on, buddy. Come on, Gunther. Come on, can you do it? Good job. Come on, buddy. Hook you up. Ta-da!
Okay, everybody's here. All right. We have closed the closed session meeting, and my report out of that is that we have now gone through the entire MOU once over, and it will be coming back to us after it is taken to the union to look at. Do any of you would like something to say? Johnny?
Thank you, Morongo firefighters, for the hard work you're doing. Keep it up. We love you.
Okay, Matthew?
I would ditto that. Appreciate everything that the CSD staff and the fire department staff, everybody that's always out there working hard on our behalf, making sure that Morongo Valley is staying safe and secure. My hat's off to you. Please be careful out there. County numbers are going up again. COVID numbers everywhere, particularly down in Coachella Valley, are practically doubling. So everywhere you go, please be careful.
Wow.
Practice your social distancing. Make sure that you've got a mask. Promote the census. We need our numbers here in Morongo Valley. Happy 4th of July, which is coming up very soon. And just be careful out there. And thank you very much, everybody. Appreciate it.
Gail, can I ask Gary a question?
Yeah.
Yeah, what, Johnny?
This weekend I went down to buy a pizza from the Monument Bar after the state mandate came out to wear mask, and I was the only one there wearing a mask. None of the patrons or employees. Is there anything we can do about that?
There's nothing we can personally do about that. If the police themselves won't police it, there's nothing we can do to change that.
Okay.
Yeah, on TV, they said the owner's responsible for,
My pizza's there, then it's unsafe.
yeah.
Lori, you got something you want to say?
Well, I did, except Matthew covered it all. Thank you, Matthew.
Oh, okay.
Just really appreciative of our guys, and I wish that the entire community understood how critical they are and how tentative our little hold on this fire department seems to be sometimes. So praying for them all.
Thank you. Christina?
I look forward to our regular meeting tomorrow night. I'm glad that I got to clear up some things that have been on the social media, which were not accurate. I also really want to thank Matthew for thinking of maybe a budget number 5 and being willing to work on it with a community member and Bonnie's, because we're open to all ideas. So thank you, Matthew, for being willing to serve on that committee.
You're welcome.
And yeah, just be safe out there. And we appreciate the firefighters very much. And, you know, I would like to say hats off to Jim Brakebill and the team that was on that day that we had the big fire by the shooting range. That was very close here. So thank you very much,
Right.
Jim, for your quick thinking and handling that with our team. So I look forward to seeing you guys tomorrow at 6 p.m., right? For the regular meeting.
Yeah,
Yes.
we'll be.
Okay.
Yes, everybody, tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, we're going to have our regular meeting. So I hope you'll all be able to attend via Zoom. I want to remind everybody that we want to keep our firefighters safe, and that means that they need to wear their masks, and anybody that comes in contact with them should be wearing a mask. That's the state law right now, and we don't all like it, and it's hot, and they're not that comfortable. But from what I understand, if you get the virus, it can be even more uncomfortable. So we're all better off if we keep to these protocols. Then we won't have to be wearing the masks forever. And thank you all for attending tonight. Good job, everybody. We got through that. The MOU, it's a tedious thing. You got to go through every line, and I appreciate all of your effort on making it happen. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Gary. Thanks, Brittany. I don't know if she's watching this or not.
She better be, she's taking note.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Brittany. And we'll see you all tomorrow night at 6 o'clock. Thank you so much. Bye.
Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Meeting adjourned.